I just dropped stitches. Dang it. Whoopsie. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 269 of the Love and Stitches podcast. It is a gloomy, rainy day outside. I don't know if you can tell. I think that might be a light shining directly into the window. But we have had so much rain, so many storms this week, as I know a lot of people across the US have been experiencing. So I hope you are doing okay, that everything is safe, and as the weather continues to be a little bit wild throughout April, just stay safe and be cautious out there. Okay, I have some new things to show you today. I have a couple of small finished objects that I actually started and completed yesterday, which is just wild to me. And then I have a project that I'm kind of bringing out from the depths of WIPs, something that I finished a few months ago, but actually needed some repair work on. So I'm bringing that back out. I've done some work on it this week and I'm excited to show it to you today. But before we get into things, I want to say a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it super easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from physical products to digital products to content to time, all in one place and all on your own terms. I'll be sharing more about how I use Squarespace later on in the episode. For now, let's get into the projects. Let's start with some finished objects. I have 3 of them to show you. 2 of them are identical, one is slightly different, but I have finished 3 yarn cozy lights, all out of this wonderful yarn from the Little Wolf Knits. It's our bottoms up Love and Stitches and Wolf Pack exclusive colorway. So I had started one last week that I'm making for myself to commemorate this yarn because it's a special yarn and I like to hang on to things that I have made with other people. I did make a whole pair of pants out of this yarn, but I had a ton left over. So I thought a yarn cozy would be a great way to have a little smaller keepsake, something that I'm going to use for the long term. Sometimes when I make garments, I only have them in my life for a few years, but the yarn cozies tend to stay with me for a lot longer. Then I started these 2 yesterday and finished both of them because yesterday was the Knit for Food knit-a-thon where we were raising money for 4 different charities. I have some updates on how much money was raised for the entire group and for Team Love and Stitches, but I made these 2 as giveaways. So they were my projects that I worked on all throughout the day. The goal was to knit or crochet for 12 hours. That's the knit-a-thon part of it. And while you're doing that, you're sharing about the fundraising, sharing your link. So I did that through Instagram all day yesterday. And this is my 3rd year participating in the knit-a-thon. And each of those years, I've made yarn cozies to give away to 2 people in my that donated under Team Love and Stitches. So that's what I'm planning to do with these 2. But never have I actually finished the cozies on that day. I think last year, I was pretty close. I just finished it up the next day. I feel like the first year, things were really wild and busy. I can't quite remember, but I think it took me almost a week to finish the cozies after that, but I ended up finishing them. I still worked on them during that day, but I actually finished both of these yesterday. So I'm really, really proud of myself. So I just did another knit cozy and I'm going to get these washed before I send them off because I was taking them around with me everywhere, working on them, dogs working while eating. I'm going to clean them before I send them off. And then I made a crochet one, which I haven't made a crochet one in a while. My go-tos are the knitted ones because they're just super easy to get started. They take 30 minutes to work on for these ones. They take 30 minutes for me to do the bottom increases. And then I have a really easy project to take with me on a walk, on a hike, into a movie theater. So I make a lot more of these than I do the crochet ones, but I think the crochet ones are faster. It was interesting because I have been keeping track of how many hours I knit per day for the last almost 3 weeks. I'm actually going to be doing an experiment here in just a little bit where I compare like a typical week of knitting to a week of knitting where I am not on social media. So I think that's going to be really interesting, a personal experiment, but I'm also planning to like share about it here on YouTube. But I have been keeping track of how much I knit in a day. So I did that yesterday, just as I have been doing. And out of the 12 hours that I was kind of intending for, I knew I wasn't actually going to knit for 12 hours. I think for me, that's just way too many hours. I would have really hurt myself. But I actually ended up knitting for 8 hours out of those 12. So I feel pretty good about that, which means I can make 2 yarn cozies in 8 hours. So I think the crochet one probably took a little bit less time than the knitted one, but I would say, you know, each of these takes around 4 hours, maybe like 3 and 5. But that was kind of cool to find out. Like if I really, you know, put my mind to it, I guess I could finish one of these in a day for a gift, or I don't know, just to have a new project like done and completed, kind of one of those short and easy, satisfactory projects. So I thought that was interesting and I thought I would share that. So 3 cozies, all completed, 1 for me and 2 to give away. I still have a lot of yarn left over, and I actually have more than this because this was just from my 3 skeins that I got for the pants, and I barely dipped into my 3rd skein. I only dipped into it when I needed to go back and add like the 6 rows that I had to add on one of the pant legs, which is obviously something that I needed, but who's to say if I hadn't been ripping them out and reattaching legs that I wouldn't have gotten away with 2 skeins of yarn in the first place. Then I also have a 4th skein because when Brianna and I originally dyed this yarn, I took one of those original skeins with me. So I have quite a bit of this yarn. Maybe I will do something else. Maybe I can make like a tank top or something with it. But I think for now, I'm probably good on using this yarn for a little bit. I did want to share the results of Knit for Food. As of right now, as of Sunday, as I'm recording this, the fundraising is still open for a little bit, but by the time the podcast goes up, it will be closed. But not to worry, you can always join us next year. So I have a screenshot to show. I just took this probably an hour ago, so it might have changed slightly since then. But all in all of Knit for Food raised $520,000, which is crazy. That's more than $100,000 more than last year, which is just amazing. Lauren Elkin started this whole project, and it's going to benefit each of the 4 organizations by $100,000 at least. So that's pretty cool. Everything that they raise goes to those organizations. They don't take anything. Everyone is a volunteer. That's something that I learned through some of the Zooms that we did. So that's pretty cool. Now, Team Love and Stitches, we raised $8,500. Which is just incredible. I had a goal of $3,500, and there's actually 2 numbers that go up here because where it says Team Love and Stitches for me, it says, I think, less than $3,500 because I think that's the people who donated directly to the team. And then there's the people who fundraise individually but join the team, and that's the $8,500, just in case you were seeing those 2 numbers and you're like, what is going on here? So out of everybody that is either on the team or donated directly to the team, I'm going to be drawing 2 random names, and I will be sending off those cozies this week after I get them clean and washed. Next up this week is my Brioche Cowl. Oh, I had somebody ask me about where this bag is from, but I think I didn't reply. I read it and then something else happened. But just in case you're curious, this is an Oh Wow Amsterdam bag, and I got it at Oak City Fibers in North Carolina. I know they had some bags that were specially made for their shop, but I can't remember if this was one of them, but it really suited me, so I got it because I love pink. Okay, so I am working on a brioche cowl. This is kind of sort of my own pattern that I made up for the Love and Stitches members as we learned all about brioche over the last month, over March. So it starts out with just a 2x2, what am I trying to say? a 2-color brioche, and then there's some fun increasing and decreasing, which I finished last week. And then I am just working on the straight portion again. Now, I was sharing that I really loved how this was looking last week. I was a little bit unsure about how the increasing and decreasing would look, and I really liked it. I think it looks really cool. Somebody shared that it kind of looks like coral, which I totally agree with you. Now, to balance it out, I was going back to just the plain 2-color brioche at the top, and to be honest, I was kind of like, I don't know if I like this anymore. I'm not really sure that I like how it looks. I feel like it almost looks unfinished, that it doesn't really look right, but the more that I've done on just the 2-color part at the top, I think it's looking better. I don't know. I'm still a little undecided, but I am finishing it as is nonetheless. The yarn that I'm using is Ruby and Roses in her, I always forget what the base is called, in her Plump Rose base, an 85 Superwash Merino, 15% nylon 2-ply. It's very squishy and very nice. I'm actually going to have quite a bit left over. So I bought more of this yarn because I want to make a matching set. I want to make gloves and a hat eventually. And I maybe didn't need to do that, but we'll see. I have extra just in case. I just dropped stitches. Dang it. Whoopsie. I guess I will be putting together some of my brioche skills to pick those up here in just a moment after I turn off the recording. It should be fine. They didn't really fall. They just popped off, which I can fix that. What was I trying to say on this? Yeah, I'm almost done. I wanted to be finished by the time I was recording the podcast this week. I think I need one more day. So hopefully I can get most of the knitting done tonight, maybe bind it off tomorrow, and then it will be done. It's definitely my first priority this week. I have been addicted to finishing projects lately. It feels so good. I think I just had way too many projects on my plate, and I was trying to kind of, for a while, like, manage working on all of them. And then I realized I'm doing a lot better if I just kind of chip away at one project, kind of have a daily quota to work on. That started with my travel blanket. So I was like working on my travel blanket every day. And if there was extra time, I would work on another project. So once that was done, then it became my hand spun Manhattan hat, which I finished last week. And then once that was done, it has become this project, except I got like waysided a little bit by the yarn cozies this week, which is totally fine because that was really fun to do. After this project, I think it's going to be the next thing that I'm going to show you, which we'll get to in just a second because I want to finish that. But I also have one more like lingering whip I want to bring in that I will hopefully get started on and be able to show you next week. So lots of tying up loose ends before we start to travel. I don't have too much left on this though. I think I figured out this morning I have about 20 rounds, and that includes both colors A and B. So like 10 rounds of A and B, but 20 rounds in total, because every brioche round is really like 2 rounds. You work a round once in each color. So 20 rounds in total, and I should be done with this. So hopefully you will see a finished cowl next week. All right, I fixed it, so you don't have to stress. It's all fixed, and I've slid it down on the needle, so hopefully it won't pop off. I am not an end stopper person. I know a lot of people like to have those like rubbery needle tips on their needles. I don't like to have those. I don't know why. I just prefer not to use them, and usually it doesn't get me into trouble, but as you can see, it sometimes does. Okay, last project here. I am resurrecting something from being a finished object to now being repaired and actually a finished object. And that is my Salty Days sweater. So this is the Salty Days sweater by Veronica Lindberg. I worked on this last fall. I wanted it to be my winter sweater, kind of like a Christmas sweater, something I could wear to holiday events that feels a little more dressy, a little more fancy. I love the yarn that I picked for this. It is, let me pull this out. It is not Fiber Fox, there's Fiber Fox, but there's also the Little Fox. It is Little Fox. There's also the Little Wolf, so don't get confused, but Little Fox, a dyer out of Virginia. And this is a 100% untreated merino worsted weight. It is so lovely to work with. And then I am holding it double with Knitting for Olive mohair, which is the yarn that's recommended in the pattern. I got both of these yarns when we were in DC, in the Virginia side of DC, at Squarespace, and I had been so excited to start this project. I started it in September, I think, and I quote unquote finished it in November. I then set it aside for a long time. I think I did do a little bit in December. I can't remember actually. I did a little bit on it, and then I was like, you know what? I just need a break from this and I will pick it back up later. Well, it's later and I really want to get it finished before we start traveling again in a few weeks, because it's not something I'm going to bring with me, and I don't want to, I've already forgotten so much about it. I don't want to forget too much. I don't want my gauge to change too much. So it was time to bring it back. So let's talk about what I have done this week. So I have lots of visuals and photos to share with you here because I did take some throughout the process. So the first thing that I've done is I have, from this little stitch marker here, this is so cute, I have re-knit part of a sleeve. And that is because I left these sleeves two different lengths. You can actually see in this picture here, the sleeves are about an inch difference apart. And that is because I can't remember exactly what I was doing. I was playing with sleeve length. I think at first it was way too long. So then when I knit the second sleeve, it was like too short. So then I went back and I knit one and it was like the perfect length, but I still had to go back and do that to the second sleeve again. I think that was the order of things. I don't know. I can't remember. But basically, and I have another photo here for this, you can see that there's about 6 rows different. And the part where it was different is before all of this design. So there's a decrease that happens where there's like a single column, and like those 2 columns, I could tell like one of them had, I think, 10 rows, the other one only had 4. So on the shorter one, I needed to rip back and add those rows. So I debated for a little bit on how I was going to do this, because I am pretty comfortable with picking up stitches, cutting my knitting, adding in some fabric, and then rejoining it by grafting. But when I was looking at the sleeve, I just didn't really see a place where I could do that. I think you need, at least for me, I need at least 2 rows of just plain knitting to actually rejoin things, because I need a row that I can cut out, and then I need a row where I can like pick up those stitches and be able to actually graft. When you graft, it adds a row back in, so you kind of need, at least from what I am thinking, I needed at least 2 rows of plain knitting, and there only was ever 1 row of plain knitting anywhere in this sleeve. So that led me to then ripping things out. So I have a couple photos of this as well. So I started by cutting off the tubular bind off. So instead of unpicking it, which is such a pain, I had to do that on something the other day. I just cut it off because I knew I had enough yarn left over that I could rejoin some yarn. I had to add rows anyway, so I was going to be adding new yarn in anyway. So I just cut off basically like the last couple rows and the bind off. And then I ripped things back. So I have another photo of everything ripped back, and you can see like the little ring where I cut things off. And then there's all these like little tiny pieces of yarn, but eventually you get to a point where you can just pull things back. And even though this is mohair, this actually ripped out super easily, which I'm really grateful for, because that could have been very difficult. So I ripped things back, and then I re-knit from here. So that's where I added in about 6 rows in this like plain section, and then re-knit all of this. And I'm actually really happy that I re-knit the whole thing rather than attaching it, because when I had first bound off the sleeve, it was pretty tight. So then I was able to bind it off again, and it's nice and stretchy. It matches the other sleeve better. I think I learned after the first sleeve that I had bound off too tight. So this one actually might be tighter than the other one, but not as tight as what I cut off before. So really happy with this. The sleeves are now the same length. So one thing is done and repaired on the sweater, which brings me to the last thing that I want to do. So I was not super happy with how the sweater looked on me. It's a longer sweater and it's also very narrow. And my body type is, I have a smaller bust and I have larger hips. So the difference between my bust and my hips is about 10, maybe 10 or 12. I think it's about 10 inches between my bust and my hips and like 12 inches between my waist and my hips. So it's pretty drastic. And having something that's long and straight looks really great right up until the hips. And then it looks like I am encased like a sausage. Like it just, to me, I don't like how it looks on me. And I really needed to think about how I wanted to approach this because I knew I didn't love it. And if I didn't love it, I wasn't going to wear the sweater. So I knew I needed to fix it, but how? So here's a picture of what it looks like on me as it is now or before I took out the bottom hem. So you can see it's pretty narrow. To be fair, I think I might have picked a larger size if I were to make this again, just to make it looser overall. I don't think that would resolve the problem with the bottom hem, but it would have made it a little bit better. Now, here is what it looks like when I folded up that bottom hem. So you can see right before the bottom hem, it is a lot looser fabric. Also, this shorter length I find on me is a little bit more flattering. Like I just like kind of that shorter look. I just think it looks good on me. I like it. It's comfortable. It doesn't squeeze me. It's not bothering me or riding up all of the time. So that being said, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. But let me show you how I took this out first because I made a mistake and I want to share it with you so that you can know. So the first thing I did is I put all of the stitches onto needles. And actually you can see it here. That's how I have it now. So I have the first, like the front half is all on one needle and the second half is all on one needle. So I've got two needles in here. So I picked everything up first and then I started to cut. So when I cut, you can see this here, I cut, instead of cutting off the bind off like I did with the sleeve, I cut off closer to where I'm actually going to end up when I frock things. And that was a mistake because what my mind was thinking at the time, and I didn't even realize until today and when I was preparing the podcast, is I was thinking, I need to cut this all off because it's all in the round. And my plan is to potentially do a split hem where I'm going to work on the front half and the back half separately and knit flat. So I need to cut off all this part in the round. So I cut up really close, which then limited me on having any yarn left to work with. I mean, I have plenty of yarn to work with, but I didn't need to do that because if I unraveled this, I would just recoup all of this yarn. It would be attached in the same place and I could then knit flat. I don't know why my brain thought that like if I left this on and unraveled it, I would have to knit it in the round. I don't know what my brain was thinking. But anyway, it's a small error. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm going to need to rejoin yarn at some point anyway. But if I hadn't cut it up here, if I had cut down at the bind off instead, I could have just unraveled this and used it for one half of the bottom hem if I end up doing a split hem. So I don't know what I was thinking, why I did that. But I eventually cut it all off and got it all picked out. And that's where I am now. So that brings me to what am I going to do next? And if you were around watching the podcast in November and December, you've already heard me talk about this. So you're probably like, just make up your mind. But I am trying not to rush into doing this because I want whatever decision I make now to be the final decision. I don't want to keep doing this over and over again because that's what I did to myself with the pants. It's like I would rush and fix something and then I just didn't think it through all the way. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I'm trying to think what I want to do. So option one would be to basically do like a really short ribbing here and kind of leave the sweater where it's at, a lot more cropped. Similar to how it looked in that second picture when I folded up the hem. I know the width is really great on me where it is. The length is pretty good. But my fear with that is it's going to lose the style of the sweater that I really fell in love with and that I really like. So option two, and what I have been leaning more towards, is to reknit the same amount of ribbing, which is what, like 2.5 inches, I think? Sorry, my focus is not working today. Reknit the same amount of ribbing, but instead of having it be in the round like this, I will do a split hem. So I will knit the front separately from the back. And I was talking with my friend Brianna, and she is a designer. You may know her. And she said, you know, if you do a split hem, consider making the back a little bit longer than the front. And I was like, you know, that would be really cute. I think that would look really nice. So instead of having an even, an even drop on the hem, the front will be this length and the back could be a little longer, maybe. The other thing that I'm considering is not going down as many needle sizes when I do the twisted rib on the bottom. So this whole thing is knit on a needle size 8. Actually, that's another story about this really quickly. I'll just share that. I could not remember what needle size that I had used for this. For some reason, I thought I had gone from an 8 to a 7 because typically I need to go down a needle size for most projects. I am just a looser knitter and I could not remember, but in my Ravelry project page, I had put a needle size 8. What I normally do is I write in the notes, I did my gauge swatch on this size and I ended up picking this size, and I'm a lot more detailed, and I will usually put the needle size for the pattern in as like the needle size until I figure out my own. So I could tell I hadn't gone back and updated it with what needle size I actually use. It just had the pattern needle size in there. And I just thought I did not use a size 8 because that's a really large needle for what I normally work with. But I ended up discovering by going back through old podcasts and I found the one where I had swatched. I did end up using a needle size 8, and I'm confident in that because in that podcast I said, I'm swatching on a size 8 and hopefully it works because I only have one size 7 needle tip. I now have 2 size 7 needle tips because I got more, but at that time I only had one size 7 needle tip, so I don't think it would be possible for me to have knit on a size 7. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's correct. If it's not, it's too late anyway. I've already reknit the sleeve and it looks fine. So keep in mind, most of the sweaters knit on a size 8 needle. When you do all the ribbing, it's on a 2.5. That is a massive needle size jump. It looks really nice. Like this collar is so polished looking. It looks so good. I love it. The sleeves, they look really nice on that smaller needle. This one's the unblocked one, but the blocked one looks even better. But I'm just not sure I need to go down quite as far. And I'm not thinking about changing it too much because I don't want to change the overall style of the sweater. I just don't want it to be a split hem and then it comes in so much in the front, it almost looks like I'm wearing like an apron. Like I still want it to go around my body for the most part, not be like this little panel in the front of me. I just don't think that will look good. So I'm thinking about maybe using a 3 or a 4. I'm probably just gonna have to try it and see what looks good. So all that being said, I got this ripped out on Friday, I think, which was my goal. So that was perfect. And I have quite a bit more yarn left of both the mohair and the worsted weight. I also have this that I can reclaim. So hopefully this week I can make a decision and start working on it. It's gonna be a perfect morning knitting project because it's just ribbing. It's really easy. The other thing that I just thought about is that twisted ribbing flat is a pain in the butt because you have to do purl through the back loop. Man, that stinks. I can do it though. I can do it though. So let me know what you think I should do, if I should keep it cropped and a little bit shorter, or if I should go for the split hem. The other thing I'm planning to do before I make my final decision is go through the Ravelry project pages once more and just see what some other people did. So I should be rocking and rolling here in a few days. I just need a few more to make up my mind. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's podcast. My domain just renewed in the past couple of weeks, which means I am officially celebrating 2 years since I moved my site to Squarespace. Back then, I was looking for a platform that was easier to use and more modern than what I was previously using. Creating a website can feel like such a massive undertaking, but I was really surprised with how easy everything was to set up. It took just a few clicks, and then I've just been tweaking things from there. You can even get started without any prior experience by using one of Squarespace's many templates. Something that I will never get over is just how easy the editing screen is to use. Everything is modular, so all you have to do is click and drag to move all your pieces around. This is so much better than code, but if you are techie, you can also click in and mess with that as well. Squarespace also has a range of options, whether you're looking to sell physical products like yarn and stitch markers, create a membership, or even share online courses. And Squarespace makes it easier than ever to take payments. Customers now have even more ways to pay with popular options like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. If you're a small business owner, it's super easy to get started with Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/nittynatty for 10% off your first website or domain. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now let's head into the next segment. The Tote Cowl has started, and we had our kickoff party on Friday night, which was really, really fun. If you are signed up for the cowl, or even if you're not, you can still join us. You can find that link to the recording in the Discord. So even if you join us like at any point, you can get access to that recording. We're gonna have one more Zoom at the very end of the cowl on April 30th. So again, it's free to sign up. All you need is the pattern and you can join us and make alongside us. I've been having a lot of fun in the Discord, getting to see everyone's different versions of the flow tote. I am working on one myself. I didn't bring it over here with me. I don't really consider that to be a project to share. It's more like a design or something that I'm filming because I'm filming tutorials for each section. And as a participant in the cowl, you get a video every single week walking you through how to make the flow tote. But at the very end of the make along, I will put all of those tutorials together into one and they will go into the pattern. So rest assured, if you have the pattern, you're still gonna get all of those video tutorials as well. So yeah, it's not too late to join and it's completely free. So I will put the link to join us down below. Okay, I only have one other thing to share for news this week, and that is that Yarn Centric and Maryland Sheep and Wool are coming up very quickly. That is our first destination when we start traveling again at the end of this month. I'm getting really excited for it. Yarn Centric is going to be on Friday, May 2nd. It is a ticketed event, so make sure you head to yarncentric.com, look at those time slots and grab a ticket. I will be there at the 12 o'clock time slot, but I also will be staying a little later because I'm going to be doing a meet and greet from 1 to 2 p.m. So if you're there for that time slot, I hope to see you there. Or if you see me at any point during Yarn Centric or during Maryland Sheep and Wool, come up and say hi. Kent and I are going to be filming a vlog as usual. It's going to be a really great time. Okay, I think that's everything. Yeah, not a lot of news this week, so let's move on to our last segment. I'm excited for when we start traveling again because I don't really do much when we're not traveling. Nothing too exciting, but I do have a few highlights to share from this week. So the first one is that I got a haircut. I haven't had a haircut since last summer. I want to say June. It was sometime when we were in New York. So I think it was June because I think it was before we flew to New York and then flew to Antigua. So I think it was before that, but I can't quite remember. It was long overdue. And I just had put off finding a new place to do it. So I finally found somewhere here in Nashville to go get my haircut. I really liked the person. So maybe when we come back here before the end of the year, I'll get a haircut again. Maybe. I told her when I left, I'm like, perfect. Now I'm going to be good for another year. And she was like, no, don't do it. But I'm really happy with my haircut. I got a few little like pieces in the front. So I actually have some style with my hair. As soon as we knew we were going to start traveling back in 2023, I started getting my hair like dyed back to my natural color, which is what's on top here. And I was pretty blonde when we were in New York. I had been going blonder and blonder. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to be traveling and like not be able to go to the hair salon every 6 weeks. So I need to start going back to my natural color. So that happened you know, a couple of years ago. And then since then, I just haven't touched it. And I think I got it toned one time, but then I haven't done any color. So I'm almost grown out. I have like still a little bit of blonde here in the bottom. And I'm really happy actually with my natural color. It's been fun because I've been able to start seeing like some gray come in, which is kind of cool, kind of exciting. I don't know if I will always keep my hair my natural color. I feel like once we are settled and established somewhere in the near future, I may want to start playing with it again. But for right now, I'm actually really liking how it looks. I feel like it suits me nicely. It's also great because I can go for a really long time without a haircut, saves me a lot of money, and my hair has never been healthier. So yeah, I was just really happy. Like getting a haircut, I feel like doing any kind of maintenance stuff always gives you a little bit of a boost. So I'm just feeling really confident right now and loving my hair. Another highlight, the weather has been warm. Honestly, it's been a little bit too warm. It's been almost 80 or like in the 80s and humid. But because of that, everything outside is so pretty. It's so green. I've been taking Toaster on lots and lots of walks. I even got out my trusty chalk bag that I use to knit while we're hiking and took a walk and knitted on Saturday for Knit for Food. So I didn't miss out on, 45 minutes of knitting while I was walking. So that's been really nice. It is chillier today. It's like in the 50s today, which I don't hate, but it's a little too cold to walk and knit with metal needles. I had my hands like in my sleeves this morning when I was walking, but yeah, somewhere in between would be excellent, but it is nice that like the warmer weather is coming. And then the last thing is I got to meet up with Nashville 11 Stitches members this week. We met up on Saturday, so it was like kind of a Knit for Food thing, but kind of like our monthly meetup. So we got to meet up together. Kent came with. He wanted to be social, so he came with. And I knitted and crocheted on my yarn cozies, and we had a lovely time, which was really, really fun. But that's it. Nothing interesting has happened other than those things. All right, I have a new video that just went up on Tuesday all about my whip bin. That's how I decided to start working on my salty days again. I also have another project that I'm bringing back in that I hopefully will be showing you next week. So if you want to check that out, kind of see how I'm still working through different projects and tying things up and deciding what to finish and what to frog, you can check that out here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!